The empathy gap is the concept that women get more empathy than men in our society. As discussed in a men's issues video, the bad side of the empathy gap may include things like men being treated as expendable, sent off to war and made to do other dangerous work that may maim or kill them, men being considered inherently dangerous, ugly, and or incapable of self-control. Also, please note the parallels to discrimination against lesbians and trans women using the same prejudices. Men being left emotionally starved and illiterate and suffering bad mental health, including a significantly higher suicide rate than women.
Well, women have a higher rate of suicide attempts.
This is not a competition, first of all. And second of all, failed attempts mean you can get better. You can't do that when you're dead. Meanwhile, the good side of the empathy gap may include things like people being nice to you, sometimes even when you don't want them to be, having a base support system compared to the depths of AMAP desolation that I have heard about, the ability and allowance for vulnerability and emotions other than anger, emotional literacy. This can even go to the point of the emotions and upset of sensitive people, notably women, being prioritized over those of people perceived as less sensitive or vulnerable who may express their emotions less openly. A cis female friend of mine has told me that because she is perceived as more stoic, other cis women's reaction to her expressing upset is to essentially go, "You've upset me now," and then act as if that takes priority over her original issue. Being seen as cute or endearing in the widest sense provokes empathy and therefore provides safe cover for vulnerability. That's why babies are cute, so you will take care of them until they can take care of themselves instead of letting them die. In adults, women monopolize cuteness and endearment, thereby empathy, and thereby vulnerability. Men are not allowed to be seen as cute or endearing, therefore not given the empathy necessary to be safely vulnerable. Men trying to be cute is either treated as a joke, as something queer, therefore outside of normal gender roles, and at best to be fetishized as fantasy, or the cuteness has to be outsourced, like with hot men holding cute animals, or literally like I feel like a lot of men just outsource it to having a cute girlfriend and living vicariously through her. I feel like that's you know, when you see a really cute girl and then her boyfriend is just some guy and you're like, why? Ma'am, you have a horrible taste. But also like, I feel like that man is repressed and has chosen the cutest of girlfriends to balance that. Straights work. I don't know why women date horrible men. I don't understand. Just get the pretty ones. Just get better beauty standards for your men. Straight women, I don't know what to tell you. It's like they're using them as like a symbolic phallus vessel for the matriarchal power they're not allowed to embody themselves. And a symbolic phallus is separate from the person holding it. It means the men in question aren't actually the focus of the empathy they provoke. If you see someone walking a cute dog, the last thing you're interested in is the person on the other end of that leash. In transmasks, it can even be used to misgender us, because if you feel safe expressing any emotion or struggle you experience because you didn't have that behavior called out of you since birth, you obviously can't be a real man. Men don't have emotions, silly. They're made of leather and sand. I notice in myself that I lean more into cutesy behavior when I'm out of my depth and want to endear myself to people around me so they'll be nicer to me. On my first day at a freelance gig last year, the boss kept referring to me by male terms. Bro, I do not pass. And I was not even trying that day. He must have read like trans stuff on my CV and assumed binary trans guy instead of asking. I don't know, okay? That day, I became hyper aware of just how far removed my behavior is from anything permissible for a cis guy, because that is usually not a standard I have to worry about, right? Like, my coworker would show me how to do something, and when I'd get it right, I'd be like, yay, I did it, you know? And it's like, and this poor guy who'd essentially just been told by his boss that I'm a guy, like, kind of looked at me so confused, yet kind of intrigued, like trying to figure out what the fuck to make of me and what he felt about that. Like, queer cis guys, like, no, they don't have a shot with straight men, let alone, like, the risk of violence if they tried. So they will have a certain level of, like, restraint and inhibition around acting certain ways around presumably straight strangers. I, unfortunately, have precedent for straight men being into me, so I just don't have that. Women are trusted. They are not considered dangerous or suspicious.
Also, dude, it's incredible how much people don't question you if you look like a woman. I just fucking parked my scooter up, bolted it to just some random guy's front door. Some dude walked past me, didn't even question me. The owner of the house just poked his head out the window, didn't ask questions. Let me do it.
They get more leniency for their wrongs.
Women who were sentenced to death almost always got a reprieve. The former captain of a death house in Texas, who had performed hundreds of executions and tried to always be professional and get the job done, but he says the first time he had to execute a woman, Carla Faye, in 1998, he fell apart. Something about having to execute a woman just impacted him differently. Similarly, in Britain in 1928, we hanged a woman named Edith Thompson for murder. Afterwards, some people suggested that the death penalty be abolished in Britain, but only for women.
They are trusted in domestic spaces and with children, as well as with sensitive issues and vulnerable situations. You can generally ask for a woman at the doctor's office, at therapy, at hair removal, at massage places, basically anywhere where you might find yourself physically or emotionally naked. The closest male equivalent I've seen is like men's groups and suicide bereavement and prevention contexts, which is both unsurprising and very depressing. The system presumes that people are more comfortable with women and that women are safer to be vulnerable around. It can also be useful for like cultural and religious access needs and for abuse survivors with male abusers. It does, however, present a access issue for abuse survivors with female abusers, like me. Hi. Last year I tried to go to a regular hairdresser rather than my usual trans one to get my hair bleached. I wanted to scout the place because it was right around the corner from my old house, and it also offered laser hair removal, which wouldn't that just be lovely to access locally? Wouldn't that be convenient? I was so tense from a freeze fear response the entire 2 hours they bleached my hair. I was physically sore the next day. I can't go to regular hairdressers anymore because they are almost guaranteed to be staffed entirely by straight cis women, feel oppressively matriarchal as a space, and trigger my stupid PTSD in the process. Most services that are male-dominated are either less essential, less involved, come into your space rather than you having to exist in theirs, or have a customer service department staffed by women. Woman is treated as a confidant in many ways, but she is good at keeping her own secrets too. She doesn't share them with man, for he is untrustworthy and may snitch on her. And like, yes, at the moment man do beat snitch, but that's just because he lacks the proper training. We can fix him. As long as women keep their secrets and do not share them with men, we cannot liberate gender. I know this is very, like, metaphorical, but y'all fucking know what I mean. Y'all fucking know exactly what I mean. If you run into it, you'll think about what I said here today, okay? Both sides need to make an effort here. But ultimately, women are the ones holding the power when it comes to secrets and trust, so they need to be the ones to open up and let others in. Tear the walls down.
But Ryan, that is dangerous. That's why us women have those walls up to begin with. Who knows what those animals might do if we let our guard down?
I know that. And I'm still telling you to, because they are no more animals than you make them be. It's you who treat them like they're animals, so they behave like it. Have you learned nothing from Planet of the Apes? Why don't you hold them to your own standards? Subdue and keep them in line the way you do with the rest of us, with shame and respectability. But you'd need to let them into the club for that, wouldn't you? Women are expected to excel in social situations, so they operate on default politeness. Yeah, man, I'm trans. I've been trans this whole time. What? I thought you was just a girl. Wait, so can you, like, sit down when you go to the bathroom? Everyone can sit down when they go to the bathroom? No, but, like, can you, like, stand up? Well, let me tell you about STPs and how everybody can also stand if they really want to. But you're trans. Yeah. But how? Like, which one? Like, what were you born as? I was born as a baby, believe it or not. Okay, but like, which prison would you go to if you went to prison? You a man or a woman then? I'm non-binary. No, what? No, but for real, like, what were you born as? Or what's your opinion on Dave Chappelle? What about the whole, like, trans people in sports thing? What about that Harry Potter thing? You know, it's, like, really fucked up. There's not, like, thing, you know? Like, how much wants to be a man? Oh, yeah, I'm non-binary.
All right.
Yeah. You don't have any questions? I mean, I'd be happy to. Oh, no, that's yeah.
Yeah, my best friend is gay, so I'm like totally down with all that stuff. I'm like really open-minded, don't worry.
In some languages, there is differences in how you're meant to speak or refer to people based on gender. With female language being more strict on politeness. In my own native language of Luxembourgish, hi, yes, I'm not North American. It's fucking rude of you to assume otherwise. I've never even been over there. Oh my god. This accent is off the internet. You gotta blame Markiplier and Drawfee for it. So, yes. One time I took a fucking, like, there was like a test that was like, which state are you from, based on your accent, and you had to like fill out like different words you would use to refer to certain things. And I was like, lol, I'm not even from the States. I'm gonna take this quiz and see what it tells. It told me fucking Ohio and New York, which is where the YouTubers that I've got it from are from. And I'm like, like, this is my 5th language. My god, maybe stop being xenophobic. Oh my god. In my native language of Luxembourgish, there are literally 2 different third person pronouns for women, like she in English. A casual one for girls and women you're on a first name basis with, and a polite one for older women and women in a position of authority, like, I don't know, your teacher or your mother. There is, however, only one male pronoun that is the same regardless of age, status, or relation. The same pattern can be seen in some languages' gender titles, where there is usually a difference made between a young unmarried woman and an older and or married one. Mademoiselle versus Madame in French, Miss and Mrs. in English, while there is only ever one equivalent title for men, regardless of age or marital status. In Japanese, while a lot of their gendering is less explicit, the gender-conforming proper way for women and girls to speak is more polite, while men and boys are allowed to be more informal. Watashi is the most common and polite first-person pronoun, like I or me, but there are also other common ones like boku or ore that are more male-connoted. To my understanding, and bear with me here, I've only been at this for like 4 years and don't live over there, so I might be off on the specifics here. It is not generally considered strange or particularly gender non-conforming for a man to use watashi, merely polite, but it is considered strange or more explicitly gender non-conforming for a woman to use some of the other ones, like ore. In one of his videos, Abroad in Japan talks about how politeness culture causes people to struggle forming real connections with others.
While you'll experience politeness and hospitality on a surface level, it's very hard to go beyond that, to genuinely befriend someone here.
Politeness means hiding parts of yourself from the world and putting on a slightly different, more limited, but presentable face to interact with others. It puts distance between you and them. It keeps you from opening up and showing your real self and being vulnerable on that level. It prevents forming deeper relationships off the bat. Politeness also dictates that you can't express negative emotions like anger properly. Openly showing anger is impolite, it's improper, it's hysteric, it's not ladylike. Men are socially permitted to be angry. They may be limited to that as their only emotion, but they do at least have that one. Women are not allowed to be angry in the same way. In media, female characters don't get to show anger in the same way that male characters don't get to cry. They either have to respectively be masculinized or feminized, queered in some way. They have to have suffered severe trauma, or it is played for laughs, caricatured as hysterics and sissies. Ridiculous weirdos who can't temper their emotions like they're supposed to. Let women be angry about stuff, but not just like the big bad stuff where their sexist struggle or whatever. Just stuff. Just stuff. Let them express their anger in normal, healthy ways. Like, I don't know, playing aggressive sports. Fuck you, Zumba. I want to see y'all do, like, rugby and martial arts, okay? Put women in danger. Let women destroy each other physically. Let them tackle each other to the muddy ground with no regard for cleanliness or grace or presentability. Women are trained to provide care and empathy. Their ability to give out empathy like it's candy also means it will be in abundance in their in-group. You know those ladies that call everybody like dearie and lovey and darling? Can you imagine like a middle-aged cishet man doing that with his lads? Lads just don't get to have that from their peer group. Women have like standard protocols when somebody is hurt or upset to basically make sure that they're okay, not only physically, but also emotionally. Giving people attention, stuff like active listening, making them feel taken care of, and like you have a handle on the situation so they can put their mind at ease. Men only know how to delegate and provide resources, not how to do the emotional labor themselves. My electrician teacher offered to get outside help in when the lads were being misogynist, transphobic idiots to me, instead of just fucking talking some sense into them himself. My coworker at that freelance job didn't give much reaction or care at me telling him that I may have hurt myself with a task and I would like a different one that I'm more able to do, please. It was just this feeling of like no support and attention, like I'm used to when something like that happens. Even though he was okay with giving me a new task, it was missing the sugarcoating, you know? And I took that for granted beforehand. I took it for granted. The only times men have managed to comfort me when I was upset was men that I'm either related to or good friends with, which I don't think that counts as emotional labor at that point, rather than just like genuine care and affection. Because women excel at emotional labor, care and social work are female dominated, including my own mother, sister, and childhood best friend, who all work as either social workers or nurses. Emotional labor creates parasocial relationships. You're maintaining an emotional distance while performing social actions that may be misinterpreted as reciprocity by your client. Like, I don't know, a dude falling in love with his favorite stripper. That makes the clients vulnerable. They are not the ones holding the social power in this situation. See various counts of online celebrities using their parasocial relationships with fans to get sex, money, and more out of them. This is also not great for the emotional laborer. You get exhausted emotionally. My sister tells me she's more irritable when she gets home from work. You also can't really form regular relationships with your clients even if you do like them. My mom, who works at a nonprofit for elderly people, which at this point includes her own age group, was telling me how she can't really make friends with clients at work, even if they seem like people she might want to be closer with, because they only know her in her professional capacity, and that puts that wall between them. You get randos venting at you without your consent. My lads felt like they could tell me about their most intimate mental health shit. They don't even talk to their guys about this stuff. Like, go tell your friends instead of me, the person you barely know who happens to be the only feminine building. Fucking hell. There's literally whole Instagram accounts collecting chats of guys on dating apps, immediately oversharing to random women. Like, buddy, no!
Oh my god, men are so pathetic. Like, we get it. You have mommy issues.
I don't really like the whole, like, very Freudian mommy and daddy issues interpretation behind people's feelings about certain relationships. Like, okay, hear me out, right? I've been thinking about this recently. So, loved ones may have different details to their relationships with you. A parent interacts with you differently than a partner, than a friend. But overall, they all fulfill the same function of like making you feel loved and taken care of and being there for you when you need them. There are equal and unequal relationships with your loved ones. Partner or friend tends to be a peer, so that relationship will be fairly mutual. A relationship like that with your parents tends to be more one-sided. When you're a child, they take care of you. When they're old, you're probably going to be taking care of them. At any point, there tends to be one of you in charge of the other, even if you both love each other just as much, right? It's an unequal relationship. Same is the case with stuff like mentorship, adult romantic relationships with a significant age gap, carers, and parasocial relationships. Yes, even parasocial relationships can be loved ones. Say an online creator still cares about their audience and wants them to enjoy their content and interactions and doesn't want to hurt them. Their audience finds comfort in their time spent together, even if it's not in person like with other loved ones. It's not an equal relationship, but it's one that people can still deeply care about on both sides of it. People will call their favorite streamer mommy, not for Freudian incest reasons or even maternal childhood trauma. Sometimes it's just for boob reasons, but that's not part of the point I'm trying to make. They just love her and feel safe with her and want to listen to her tell them a story or play a game or something. She has nothing to do with their actual mother. She is just also an unequal loved one to them. I feel like it is so reductive to those relationships to only ever compare them to the parental one, instead of just letting them stand on their own. Freud sucked, and he's dead now, so I don't think he gets to prescribe and ruin how we talk about wholesome things like love and relationships. I think we can find our own new, better ways of looking at these things. Anyway,